Good morning. It is day 27 of NaNoWriMo. My week 4 video is uploading to YouTube, and I suppose I could call these next 4 days week 5 or week 4.5, but in my head I'm thinking the final countdown, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. I need more sleep. So I'm doing my usual standard Monday plan here. I'm going to work, and after work I'm meeting my writing group at Starbucks for our final write-in. Next week I believe we'll go back to our usual workshopping, and we'll have to figure out who is ready to submit something. Not all of us have done Nano, so maybe we can press on those people. And I am going to start my final chapter of my novella, Elena chapter. Given my track record of late, maybe it'll be a short chapter, and maybe that'll be good for me. I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. In the meantime, I have my Starbucks gift card from my aunts that they sent me in the last video, so I should be good to go. Good evening. It is day 28 of NaNoWriMo, and I have returned from work. It's been kind of crazy these past couple of days. The DC Metro, at least in my neck of the woods, is really crazy. One of the stations is closed down, and they have to shuttle us from place to place in these huge buses. And I also have some stuff at work that's kind of up in the air, and all I can think to myself is, you couldn't have waited 1 week? Things always have to go bad during NaNoWriMo. That being said, I went to my final write-in with my writing group at Starbucks, and got some good news. The DC Public Library teamed up with a local bookstore, East City Bookshop, and they invited a bunch of us, including one member of my writing group and me, to share segments of our Nano projects on December 1st, Friday at 6:30 p.m. So it was exciting to talk about that with her and with my other members, and hopefully they'll come see us maybe, and what I've picked to read won't suck. I'm in the final chapter, so maybe I have a little bit of time. Now the pressure's on, I have to write something good. Also, while we were doing our write-in, there was a group of people at tables near us, and we could tell after a while that they were critiquing someone's story, and we're like, it's another writing group. So as they were getting up to leave, one of our members asked, so are you a writing group? And it turns out that they were, and that they're also part of our umbrella group, the Capitol Hill Writers Group, and that they usually meet on Tuesdays, but decided to meet on Monday. So what do you know, we got to say hello. It was really cool. But now the show must go on, and speaking of finals, here we have the final Word Nerds virtual write-in posted to the NaNoWriMo YouTube page. Not sure why there's no picture and it's just the Hangout on Air sign, but you know, whatever. So long as they're doing some good sprinting, that's all that really matters.
So we should be moving in, if you are on the track for the chart or whatever, we should all be moving into the end. How is everyone feeling about writing endings?
Wish I had more time. It's not a problem I'm having right now.
I always dread writing endings.
Me too.
It's like trying to figure out how to wrap everything up and like have everything like that needs to be revealed get revealed, and
I've created all these problems and I rarely figure out how to solve all of them at once before it's time.
Sometimes I like endings. Like the momentum seems to like really be going. You kind of know where you're supposed to end up, which is nice. So, but that's all the stars align.
I like the stuff like after the after the conflict has been resolved and like the climax and everything. Like I like all of the like falling action and like wrapping up character threads and stuff. I enjoy that, but I just really struggle with writing like the big final conflicts for some reason. Even when I know what they're supposed to be, I just don't want to write them. there's
out.
so much pressure. I think that's what it is. Is I'm like, this is supposed to be amazing and the big like showdown, and so I just get really stressed. I don't like it.
It has to be like, there's so many things, like it has to be a big final showdown, it has to be like emotionally satisfying, and then you have to have like the falling action. Like it's a lot of pressure.
And like your character has to like prevail, but also it can't be too easy for them, and so you have to make sure there's obstacles. It's just a whole mess of things.
Exactly.
Good morning. It is day 29 of NaNoWriMo. And after I do my usual go to work thing and do work, I'm going to my final write-in. It is at a Panera in DuPont. It was actually the first write-in that I went to this year. It was on the 1st of the month, hosted by DC's municipal liaison. So I thought, what better way to round things off? I'm largely on track. I took a little bit of a dip last night, but as we get closer to the finish line, it feels like the pressure is mounting. Like, oh no, what if I don't get there in time? Makes me wish I could just hunker down on my own and write, but unfortunately I still have to live out my normal life, at least to some extent. But I'll just remind myself that I've done this several times before, and I'm actually doing much better this year than most years, so in a few days things are going to feel really great. Good evening. It is day 30, the final day of NaNoWriMo. I've returned from work, where the cycle continues of shoddy public transportation this week and things breaking down on the computer at work, because, you know, that's always the way it has to be as we're speeding toward a deadline here. But yesterday was a lot of fun. I went to the write-in that was hosted by the DC Municipal Liaison, and I saw people there who I had met earlier in the month. That's one of the great things about NaNoWriMo, about how you can get introduced to people. And we sat and we wrote, and we found out that actually the Municipal Liaison hosts these weekly writing sessions all year, not just for Nano. So a bunch of us who found out about it on the forum and I are like, oh, that sounds interesting. I think it's certainly something I should try to maybe keep in mind. I don't know if I could go every week. I guess I'm kind of assuming that no one can go every week. That's a bit crazy. But I'm regularly submitting work to my writing group, and I need to edit it, especially what I've written during Nano. I definitely need to edit things before I send them to the writing group. So maybe that'll be good encouragement for me to sit down and actually do that before I have to submit my pieces. So yeah, I hope I do something with this, because it feels really great to be connected to the writing community here for more than just this month. But for now, I'm settling in with this final NaNoWriMo interns virtual write-in, and the final virtual write-in I think they'll post this month. And I am trying to finish my final chapter of my novella, or at the very least get it to 50K.
Awesome. All right, well, since this is the last virtual write-in and we're almost at the end, and a lot of us are just trying to write some words, let's go ahead and jump into our first sprint.
Right.
Oh, also, actually, before we begin, just a little reminder that today is hashtag Giving Tuesday. So it's a thing that started a few years ago, kind of in the wake of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, where it's just you take a Tuesday to appreciate, you know, nonprofits or organizations that you love. So we're participating today. Most of the profits from today will go to support our Young Writers program. So encouraging the next generation of writers. Some of you guys on here might be young writers, so yeah, that's what's going on. If you want to, you can go. I think there will probably be links in the video description box to our store, or you could do a Facebook fundraiser. But yeah, Giving Tuesday. All right.
It's just into the chat.
Great. Now let's give our novels some words.
Yeah.
On this Giving Tuesday.
So in the spirit of it being the last week and nearing the end of NaNoWriMo, today's general theme is tying up loose ends, and so that is the first word sprint of today's writing. It's called loose ends. So make a list and talk about all the loose ends you have to tie up in your novel. And this one's going to be 5 minutes. And
do you have a timer?
Yeah, I got a timer.
Oh, you got a timer. Yeah.
So I will get that set.
All right. So just quick list running through all of the loose ends that you have to tie up in your novel.
Right. And you don't need to tie them up in the next few days, but just in general, like
just
with the rest
so you know.
Yeah.
Just so you know what's going on.
Yeah. It's good to kind of get back to track. All right.
Right.
So 5 minutes, starting right now.
Good morning. It is a bright December morning, and I have one NaNoWriMo. The website put me at 54,315, I think it was, and I don't think that's accurate. I think they gave me a fair few more words than I actually wrote, but I guess I shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. I remember in past years I had trouble in that the website shorted me when I went to validate my novel, you know, when we have to copy and paste it into their little word counter, but lately the opposite's been true, so that's pretty cool. So I actually didn't finish my chapter before midnight, but I finished it later, and it was still difficult, and I rambled, and I didn't know how to end it, and who knows? But hey, at least I'll have some time to edit it before I have to share it with my writing group, whenever that may be. I have several chapters now that I could share with them, and so it'll take a while. But for now, I have one final event in my NaNoWriMo 2017 to-do list. I was invited to read a little bit of my novel at East City Bookshop tonight. So I've gone ahead and printed and lightly edited a section of the novel and timed myself to make sure I'm in the correct parameters, and now I gotta get going and get up so that hopefully I can get to work and then get to the bookshop on time. I'm hoping to find a way to record myself at the reading somehow. We'll see how it goes. Hi. I'm Rachel, and I'm reading from a script because I'm nervous. I'm a little bit of a Nano rebel. I focused on a few projects this year during NaNoWriMo. The biggest one of these was to finish a draft of my novella, The Corners. My writing group, including Lacey and Emily back there, they have been critiquing it since the beginning of the year, but then I ran out of chapters. And then Nano came along, and I finished it. My story is somewhat of a quiet domestic drama featuring the prominent and mostly idyllic small-town family, the Corners. They're pretty much the darlings of their community, except for the patriarch's black sheep of a nephew. One night, a drunken argument between these two guys turns very physical, and the patriarch hits his head hard, and a tragic accident ensues. My novella opens around 11 years after this, when the nephew is out of prison and has moved back home. His grandmother and caretaker has left him her house and her will, and she's also bequeathed a box of old letters to her deceased son's daughter in the hopes of fostering some sort of amends. This daughter, Lena, is slowly reading through the letters and angsting about them. I thought I'd read a short excerpt about concerning one of the first things I wrote this month, a Thanksgiving scene. Lena now lives in D.C. with her childhood sweetheart turned fiancé, and she's invited her mother, Anna, and her wild child of a younger sister, Lydia, to dinner. Some comedy ensues, hopefully, as personalities clash, but Lena is also stuck in her own little world as she grapples with these letters. There is some adult language here, but I'll go ahead and gloss over it. Okay. Aaron was simultaneously trying to carve the turkey while keeping up a robust conversation about the wedding plans. "We're thinking of a green and gold theme," he addressed his words to Anna. "Something that might signify the summertime. And maybe we could have our table centerpieces shaped like a bell from in front of the restaurant, something to give a sense of our shared roots." Anna was nodding, but her eyes were on Lydia. Lena's sister had arrived at the apartment in torn jeans and a raggedy, long-sleeved t-shirt featuring a wide-eyed, red-rimmed turkey proclaiming, "Let's get basted." Everyone else was wearing dark dress shirts and slacks, and Aaron even had a corduroy jacket on. "And since the ceremony is at a temple, maybe something a little kitschy and religious too." Aaron's voice rose a decibel, as if Lena's mother simply couldn't hear him. "Something like yarmulkes that say, 'Aaron and Lena Letcher, June 16th, 2013. Lydia snorted as Lena privately started over the issue of her changed name. "Lame." "Lydia," Anna chastised in a low voice, but her face was more worried than angry. Aaron's lips were pursed together, and Lena saw some small chunks of meat fly off the bird as the electric carver suddenly whizzed. "Ladies first," he finally said, ladling a clean section of turkey onto a china plate and walking it over to Anna. Lena wondered if she should be insulted. Her sister rose to the bait, rolling her eyes. She leaned forward on the table, steeping her hands under her chin. "This wedding must be a dream come true for you," she crooned to Aaron. "Have you had your bridal gown fitting yet?" Lena saw her fiancé's mouth start to open, but as if she were watching a TV sitcom, she suddenly pushed mute in her head. She felt as though she were tuned into another station anyway, something where she was even more of an outside observer. What did Grandma mean by leaving those email printouts in her box? It was a trick, some sort of obfuscation. There was nothing in the small stack with Gabe, her cousin, venting his anger or bemoaning his life or cursing his lot or even making small talk about his daily activities. No, all of the emails had to do with his mother. Lena took a look back at her own mother, who finally seemed upset with her youngest daughter's behavior. What would it be like what would it be like to have a mother who didn't care at all? A mother who could abandon you as a baby, move far away, and never think about you again. She'd known Gabe's history since she was born, of course, but she'd never considered that Gabe might actually want to meet the woman, that he and Grandma would basically play detective in their emails and track down Jillian Blanchard, who was now some fashion designer in New York, or at least she was 3 years ago when Gabe went out to meet her, right after he got out of prison. "If we could all stop and be civil for a moment," Aaron's voice drew her back to the present, containing a hitch that made it sound like he was barely able to take his own advice. He stood, taking the wine glass with him. "I'd like to make a toast." Lena sighed, her own glass feeling heavy as a brick. "To family," her fiancé intoned. Lena's mother made a clucking note of approval, but Aaron wasn't done yet. "To helping out the ones we love when they're in need. Lydia, Lena jolted again to see herself motioned at, felt it important to host Thanksgiving here, privately, with your mother. She's been worried, and you haven't been responding to her calls." "Oh, F you, Mother Teresa." The china rattled dangerously as Lydia banged against the table. "Keep your self-righteous face out of my business." "Lydia!" Their mother's face looked as though her youngest had made this display at a fundraising event for needy children. "I'm the one who suggested this because Aaron is right, and your choice not to return to Marthasville severely restricts all of us. Your sister is engaged." Anna drew out the word long enough for Lena to think she was being awarded for curing cancer. Don't you think it's a sacrifice for her and Aaron not to be able to see the Litchers?" Lena missed whatever vitriol her sister spewed about the Litchers because she was swallowing her own laugh. A sacrifice to not spend the day with her future mother-in-law, Cindy? That was a joke. This whole thing was a joke, Lena realized. Anna didn't want Lydia in Marthasville, not while Gabe was living there. And maybe she didn't even want to be there herself. What was her cousin doing right now on this Thanksgiving, Lena suddenly wondered. Would Anna have felt compelled to invite him over to her house if she had stayed in Marthasville? Or to shun him? The conversation across the table was a buzzing agitation. Lena stood up abruptly, turned on her heel, and exited to the kitchen. She thought she might have heard her mother or her fiancé exclaim her name behind her, but she didn't turn. Certainly it was time to warm the pies in the oven. Surely it was time for this day to be over. Thank you. Hello, hello, hello. Whoa, oh my goodness, what a day. Wonderful but exhausting day. I made it to East City Books, and there were ultimately 3 people from my writing group there, including the other girl who was reading, and I saw somebody else who I had met at East City Books a couple of weeks ago at a NaNoWriMo event, so there were lots of people to talk to, lots of excitement in the air about finishing NaNoWriMo and getting words in. And I think people took my small little segment really well. I guess you can be the judge, you heard it. I had talked, you know, in the intro that I read before in that other clip about my writing group. So afterwards people were coming up to me like saying, so what's this about a writing group in the area? So I gave a spiel about my writing group that I probably should have been more prepared for. I should have known people would be curious, but I did my best and hopefully steered people in the right direction, because I believe our founder will be recruiting people in January, and I'm just rambling up a storm here, and I've been doing NaNoWriMo for 14 years. This is my 14th NaNoWriMo, and I think it's my best NaNoWriMo. I've certainly been on track the most often, and I have this vlog probably to thank for that, having to put that number at the bottom of the screen. And doing it with my writing group, we've all been emailing each other about how great that is and how much we even want to keep up this write-in thing, that we're not just meeting to workshop our stuff, but to write together. It's just been amazing. The community is just popping. I mean, when I started this back in '04, I never could have imagined that it would be so popular that the public library and an indie bookstore would band together to create this space for us to read our work. It's just amazing how popular Nano has gotten, and also how inclusive and community-oriented, both online and off. I met so many great people in the DC area, and it made me so happy, and I feel closer to my writing group, and that makes me really happy. And I think the only one thing that maybe I wish I'd done more of is realize how involved BookTube was, and maybe done more with them. Like I hear Ben Sanders had stuff going up on his channel. I mean, NaNoWriMo's changed a lot for me over the years. When I started, for several years, all I did was write a crappy novel in November that I'd never look at again, and not do a lot of other writing throughout the year. And slowly, I've been doing writing on a more regular basis, and I've been choosing projects for myself that I won't just discard at the end of the month. I'm so glad for what this is doing for my writing and for my social life, and just for feeling part of a community in DC, and NaNoWriMo continues to fit into my writing life. It's changed a bit, my experience with NaNoWriMo, but it's changed for the better, and I hope that's what it will continue to do for all of you if you choose to continue with this process, that it will grow with you. I'm kind of relieved that I won't be sitting in front of a camera every day for a while now doing this vlog thing. I'll leave that to you people doing Vlogmas. I'll enjoy watching them, but I don't have to make them. It's been an interesting ride with this. Thank you all, everyone who's liked and commented and watched these videos. I've had a lot of fun making them. And I'm very much looking forward to getting back in front of this camera in my more traditional mode of talking about books for BookTube. I've really missed talking about reading, and I'm very excited to get back to that. But in the meantime, NaNoWriMo might be over. You may have made 50K, you may not have. Either way, I'm sure you're further along in something than you used to be. So keep that momentum going and keep writing, everyone. I'll see you next time.